has to be done by President and people together, or it won't be done at all. I am asking not that you give something to your country, but that you do something with your country. I am asking not for your gifts, but for your hands. Together we can hardly fail, for there is no force on earth to match the will and spirit of the people of America. It is time for an honest look at the problem of order in the United States. Dissent is a necessary ingredient of change. But in a system of government that provides for peaceful change, there is no cause that justifies resort to violence. Let us recognize that the first civil right of every American is to be free from domestic violence. So I pledge to you, we shall have order in the United States.
How can a party that can't unite itself unite the nation? How can a party that can't keep order in its own backyard hope to keep order in our 50 states? How can a party that labels the results of its programs the Great Society ever find any real solutions? How can a party that lets the country get bogged down in an endless war against a fourth-rate military power promise anything but decades of conflict? How, in the light of all this, can the American people fail to see that the United States urgently needs new leadership? By now it's clear, the American people do see the need.
Never has so much military, economic, and diplomatic power been used so ineffectively as in Vietnam. If after all of this time and all of this sacrifice and all of this support, there is still no end in sight, then I say the time has come for the American people to turn to new leadership, not tied to the policies and mistakes of the past. I pledge to you, we shall have an honorable end to the war in Vietnam.
This time, vote like your whole world depended on it.
The next president must unite America. He must calm its angers, ease its terrible frictions, bring its people together once again in peace and mutual respect.
This requires leadership that believes in law and has the courage to enforce it. Leadership that believes in justice and is determined to promote it. Leadership that believes in progress and knows how to inspire it. American youth today has its fringes, but that's part of the greatness of our country. I have great faith in American youth. The youth of today can change the world. And if they understand that, I think that we're going to go forward to a great age, not just for Americans, but for peace and progress for all the people in the world.
In recent years, crime in this country has grown 9 times as fast as population. At the current rate, the crimes of violence in America will double by 1972. We cannot accept that kind of future for America. We owe it to the decent and law-abiding citizens of America to take the offensive against the criminal forces that threaten their peace and their security, and to rebuild respect for law across this country. I pledge to you, the wave of crime is not going to be the wave of the future in America.
I see the face of a child. What his color is, what his ancestry is, doesn't matter. What does matter is he is an American child. That child is more important than any politician's promise. He is everything we have ever hoped to be and everything we dare to dream to be. This child must not have his dream become a living nightmare of poverty, neglect, and despair. He must not be the victim of a system that feeds his stomach but starves his soul. I ask you to help me make the American dream come true for those to whom it seems an impossible dream today.
Think about it. When the decisions of one man can affect the future of your family for generations to come, what kind of a man do you want making those decisions? Think about it. Who is the one man who has the experience and the qualifications to lead America in these troubled, dangerous times? Nixon's the one.
Mr. Vice President, how do you expect to gain the respect of the American people in the event you're elected?
Well, I think by my record of public service, when a man says that he thinks that the most important thing is to double the rate of convictions, but he doesn't believe, and then he condemns the Vice President, myself, for wanting to double the war on poverty, I think that man has lost his sense of values. You're not going to make this a better America just because you build more jails. What this country needs are more decent neighborhoods, more educated people, better homes, Now, if we need more jails, we can build them, but that ought not to be the highest objective of the presidency of the United States. I do not believe that repression alone builds a better society. Now, if Mr. Nixon can close his eyes to that, then he doesn't have enough vision to be president of this country. And that's why I've said what I've said.
Humphrey Muskie. There is no alternative.
Every American, black or white, rich or poor, has the right in this land of ours to a safe and a decent neighborhood. And on this there can be no compromise. I put it very bluntly. Rioting, burning, sniping, mugging, traffic in narcotics, and disregard for the law are the advance guard of anarchy, and they must and they will be stopped. The answer lies in reasoned, effective action by state, local, and federal authority. The answer does not lie in an attack on our courts, our laws, or our Attorney General.
Humphrey has the answers. Now let's give him the authority.
Do you want Castro to have the bomb now? Do you want any country that doesn't have the bomb to be able to get it? Of course you don't. Where does Richard Nixon stand on the UN treaty to stop the spread of nuclear weapons? He says he's in no hurry to pass it. Hubert Humphrey wants to stop the spread of nuclear weapons now, before it mushrooms. Hubert Humphrey supports the UN treaty now, as do the 80 countries who have already signed it. Let's stop the spread of the bomb now. Humphrey. There is no alternative.
Paid for by citizens for Humphrey Muskie.
What has Richard Nixon ever done for you?
What has Richard Nixon ever done for me? Medicare. No, that was Humphrey's idea. But Nixon. What, the bomb? The nuclear bomb? No, it was Humphrey's idea to stop testing the bomb. But Nixon. Now, what has Richard Nixon ever done for me? Let's see. Working people, I'm a worker. Nixon ever do anything? No. Humphrey and the Democrats gave us Social Security. But Nixon. Nothing in education. Nothing in housing. Hasn't done anything there either.
The preceding has been a paid political announcement by Citizens for Humphrey Muskie.
How funny. There must have been something Nixon's done.
I was brought up in the spirit of, to put it simply, of brotherhood. We had no real religious or racial prejudice in our home. I've had many people ask me how I got interested in civil rights. I said, well, just because I'm a person. I didn't feel it was necessary to go to college to get interested in civil rights. In fact, I never ever heard a bigoted statement in our family. It's really a fact that we were just brought up to respect people. My dad used to tell me that the lowliest man in town might be the man that you need someday. He used to let me believe that the people were basically good and that you ought to look for the goodness in them. So I've had lots of these intellectual friends of mine come to me and say, well, now, where did you get this stimulus for the civil rights? And I said, I got it when I was born. Yes, we just were brought up to believe that people are people.
Humphrey Muskie. Two you can trust.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Frank Sinatra. I'd like to tell you about a man. He's a man who promised he would stop the bombing in Vietnam as an acceptable risk for peace. He's a man who promised that he would bring peace and order to our streets. He's a man who said that every American child has the right to a full education. Now, the man I'm talking about is Hubert Humphrey. But before Mr. Humphrey can carry out his plans for our country, he must be elected president. And for this to happen, he needs your help. He needs money. Right now on your screen is an address where contributions to the Humphrey campaign should be sent. Send in your contributions, large or small, but as soon as possible. Help Hubert Humphrey, help America by helping him. Thank you.
Humphrey Muskie. Two you can trust.
The preceding recorded broadcast was paid for by Citizens for Humphrey Muskie on behalf of the candidacy of Hubert H. Humphrey for the office of President of the United States.
Bum, bum, bum. La, 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 la. La, 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 la.
He's so adorable. Wonder what it'll be like when he's older. What's going to happen to him? I hope he won't be afraid the way we are. There's so much violence now. I wouldn't be so scared if I felt they understood what it's all about. And they cared.
Hubert Humphrey has said that every American has the right to a decent and safe neighborhood. And on this, there can be no compromise. But for every jail that Mr. Nixon would build, Mr. Humphrey would also build a house. For every policeman Mr. Wallace would hire, Mr. Humphrey would also hire a good teacher.
I'm Eugene Marshall, and I'd like to tell you what I've been thinking about. On November 5th, when each of us goes into that voting booth, we're going to be alone in there with one thing to do, and that's to vote for the best person we are capable of voting for. When I see this man, I think of feelings of my own which I don't like, but I have anyway. They're called prejudices. He has some, we have some. I think we have to recognize the fact that we have these feelings and that we have the right to conceal them or to express them if we want to. This is our freedom of speech and thought, our freedom from fear. This man running for the presidency is the living proof of this freedom. But his winning the presidency would be the living death of it. He is devoted now to his single strongest prejudice. He will take that prejudice and make it into national law. Then he will make other laws from other prejudices. We have heard him tell it as it is. What follows his election is no secret. Law and order, he will make the law, and we will take the orders. It's not a comfortable thought, having to live under the law of a man's personal prejudice when no one knows which way the prejudice will turn next. This man has had experience as a congressman, a senator, a vice president for 8 years. He has in those years served what he felt to be the interests of the American people. A question I ask is, which American people's interests has he served? The interests of men and women who work for a living in a factory, on a farm, in an office, a store, a TV studio? No, I don't think so. He has a record of being against minimum wages, against aid to education, against public housing, against consumer protection, against Medicare. He's been against many things that mean a lot to me. Now I've heard there's a new Nixon. But when I ask myself what is new about Nixon, I find this answer. His technique is new. In the past, he discussed and debated issues and he lost an election. Now he will not discuss and not debate, and in that way hopes to win an election. I can't trust a man like that to be my president. He talks of himself as the new leader of the people, but he can't tell us where he's going to lead us. Out of the war? How? Out of violence? Again, how? We have only his personal assurance that he'll get war and violence to disappear. This is no hero. There is no new Nixon. There's only the same old Nixon. In 1964, he campaigned for Barry Goldwater. In 1968, he is campaigning for Spyro Agnew. There is only one man of the three who trusts me and who trusts you. He has trust in our ability to distinguish right from wrong. He has trust in our determination to keep what we have worked hard for, our homes, our jobs, our safety, our right to say what it is we like and what it is we don't like. Over and over again, he has proven that it is the strength of our finest instincts, not our worst, that keeps us functioning as the strongest nation in the world. Now, he is asking us to trust him, to trust his belief that equal justice for every individual is our greatest protection and our greatest strength. He is asking us to trust his belief that the way to bring peace to warring nations and warring groups of people within a nation is to recognize the causes of these wars and work to get rid of them. This is a time when a good man can become a great man. I believe in Hubert Humphrey, and I trust him. And God willing, he will be our next president.
The preceding political announcement was paid for by Citizens for Humphrey Muskie.
What have the Democrats ever done for you? Well, let's think about it. Your kids are getting a better education today because Democrats have given schools needed federal aid. And when school is out, your kids won't have to wander the streets. Democrats have paved the way for them to get good summer jobs. You've got more money today for those little luxuries because Democrats worked hard to push through a higher minimum wage. You don't have to worry about supporting your mother today, and she needn't worry about being a burden on you, thanks to Social Security and Medicare. Quite an accomplishment? You know it. And you only heard a minute's worth. What have the Democrats ever done for you and yours? Think about it.
Paid for by Citizens for Humphrey Muskie.
Why are more and more millions of Americans turning to Governor Wallace? Follow as your children are bused across town.
As president, I shall, within the law, turn back the absolute control of the public school systems to the people of the respective states.
Why are more and more millions of Americans turning to Governor Wallace? Watch your hard-earned tax dollars sail away to anti-American countries.
As president, I will halt the giveaway of your American dollars and products to those nations that aid our enemies.
Why are more and more millions of Americans turning to Governor Wallace? Open a little business and see what might happen.
As president, I will stand up for your local police and firemen in protecting your safety and property.
George C. Wallace.
Today we are involved in Southeast Asia with 500,000 American servicemen who are totally committed at this very moment between life and death. I sincerely hope and pray that the political and diplomatic negotiations in Paris are successful and that an honorable peace can be achieved through negotiations and the American servicemen brought home. At this time, there's some doubt about the success of our political and diplomatic negotiations in Paris. And if they fail, and as your president, I shall call upon the Joint Chiefs of Staff to bring a military conclusion to the war with conventional weapons and bring the American servicemen home and turn the security of South Vietnam over strictly to the South Vietnamese armed forces.
Wallace has the courage to stand up for America. Give him your support.